Hail and welcome back to Sonic Rush. We're done with the Blue Blur story, so now it's time to head on to the Mauve Speedy Things story. I don't think Blaze needs a descriptive right now. She's just basically alternate universe Sonic. Flame, I'm going to hand over to you first. What did you think when Blaze first appeared on the scene? Were you even, cognizant of your feelings for this character yet?
I'm not quite keen on how you phrased that yet, but I will say that when I first saw Blaze come about, I was quite excited purely because she basically is a similar character to Sonic. You know, she fills the same role. She's a fast character. She doesn't really seem to have any gimmicks attached to her. So, you know, I liked Blaze to start with, and I still like Blaze. So, yeah, you know, I'm happy that Blaze is here.
Cool. What about you, Rich?
I have to say, I don't really remember my thoughts when the game first came out. I think because I wasn't really that invested in the Sonic franchise at that point.
Right.
I would say that, even though I played, Adventure 2, I didn't really become invested in the world of Sonic until Unleashed.
Right.
So I was sort of came in after the fact. But that said, I do think that Blaze was an awesome addition to the franchise, and probably one of the, if not the best friend character that they added since Knuckles, really. Largely because, as Flame said, she is effectively, just an alternate to Sonic, but she's got a lot going for her. I mean, her design is awesome, but also all the sort of fire stuff. It's something a little bit different and a little bit exciting, but it's in the same vein as how you'd expect a Sonic game to play.
Exactly.
And I think that's sort of what makes her sort of really quite good. Although that said, she's my least favourite character to control in Black Knight, but that's literally just because her double jump is bulked to hell, and you can't. Yeah. The dash is not as far-reaching as it should be, so it just makes her one level far more of a nightmare than it has any reason to be. But outside of that,
that's personal for you. They were basically the hard difficulty in Black Knight. Did we redo Black Knight? I think we did.
We did indeed.
We did the main game. We never got around to doing the optional levels, but we did see a bit of Blaze there.
Okay, cool. My opinion on Blaze essentially echoes what Flame and Richie have said, and this is something that made the other playable characters in Mania so easy to just pick up and play. You use Sonic as a base, and then you had different aesthetics, you had a different character design, maybe different elemental theming, obviously Sonic is associated with the air, wind, and Blaze is fire. So, yeah, you have a good base to start with, and then you can just expand from there. And I think, among other reasons, this is why Blaze has kind of stood the test of time, whereas, I don't know, other characters like Silver are popular, but not as popular as Blaze. And this is without factoring in her personality and whatnot. Sonic is very in your face, he's very bombastic, but Blaze is quite reserved and a little bit shy in that regard. So it even adds to the whole, yeah, this is literally parallel universe Sonic, really. But definitely my favourite character in many a year. And like Richie said, great aesthetics. What Flame said, it's easy to pick up and play. And I'm glad, Blaze came into being.
I mean, I have to say, I think that's also partially one of the reasons why, obviously, Silver was not received that well when he first kind of came into existence. However, his connection to Blaze and the relationship that they had in Sonic 06 is probably one of the reasons why he's perhaps survived in popularity and sort of gained a little bit, because that relationship made him at least a little bit more than the whiny Sado who did psychic powers and was just stupidly slow.
Yeah, I think Archie and IDW have a big factor in saving Silver if, you know, he needed to be saved in any way. But you're right, Richie, the relationship between Silver and Blaze in 06 was one of the high points of the game. And, yeah, it's the whole, like, what was their debut game? Was it good? Was it bad? In Blaze's case, it was pretty nifty. I think even people who don't care for the boost formula can agree that at least, you know, Rush is a decent game. But with 06, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Come on now.
Well, I feel like Silver struggles to fit into the wider cast of characters purely because of like the game he was brought into, and I feel like that he just doesn't mesh as well because his intro game technically didn't happen either.
Yeah.
So he really doesn't, you know, like all the other characters, like, you know, there's friendly rivalries between like Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic and Shadow, and that sort of goes back to when they were introduced. Whereas Silver, like, he's there, you know, they keep finding reasons to bring him back, even if they're not going to even bother to explain it, like in Forces.
Man, like, if we ever get to Colours DS, you guys are going to love that one.
Oh yeah, I have seen how they brought him back there, but yeah, it's like it's one of the things where, you know, like, although you can always say like story in Sonic, it doesn't matter too much in that, it does have a big influence on the character interactions, and even if it's like the actual in-depth elements of the story just aren't really a thing in Sonic anymore, there's still like little remnants of that with most of the characters, but with Silver it's just not there. Like, you know, it's just Silver. We know roughly what he does. We can tick off the boxes of like, oh, he's from the future, and that should be really cool. But you know, they don't do anything with that, and they can't really do anything with that.
Yeah, they kind of screwed the pooch on that one, because if they'd gone with this same alternate dimension thing that they had going with Blaze, you kind of get away with a multitude of sins. Yeah. Because you can just go, alternate universe. Whereas when it's just like, he's from the future, you kind of go, well, yeah, but he's clearly not from that future, because that future just doesn't exist anymore. So, does that mean that he just comes from a different future, but then what's his motivation? You just end up having to go into a lot of explanation, which, well, one, doesn't happen because he's never a big enough part of the story to require it.
No.
But then equally, because of that, he just comes across as a complete waste of a character, because you're just like, why are you even here? It's just because he's a Sonic character, and therefore he must be there.
And just to tie this back into actually what we're covering here, I much prefer Blaze's alternate dimension storyline and characterization, as opposed to just, you know, shoving her in the future to give Silver a character to play off and whatnot. But anywho, yeah, alternate dimension shenanigans already. We kind of gave away the game right at the game, but you know, like Flame said, story isn't super important in a Sonic game. For me, characterization will always be king with like these mascot characters and whatnot, and that's kind of where Lost World fails for me, because the story's whatever, but the characterization is kind of all over the place.
Oh god, yeah, and I mean that's part of the reason why I really don't get on with Lost World, because it's one of those things where if a game is a bit bleh, but the story's at least alright and fun and the characters are fun, you can kind of forgive the game for being a little bit meh. Equally, if the game is really fun and really good, then you can forgive the story for being a bit meh.
Yeah.
And Lost World, just the game isn't good enough to kind of cope with its really piss poor characterization. Whereas on the flip side, for me and Flame definitely anyway, Black Knight, while it's not a perfect game, the story and the characterization really do lift it up in terms of being an enjoyable experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, that also benefits from the setting in my eyes, but I feel like the story problem that Lost World had and this is in terms of both the plot they were going for and the characterization, is that it seemed like it wasn't really committed to anything. Like, you would have moments of, like, they were building something up, like, you know, the whole thing with Tails and whatnot getting turned into a robot, and it's like, no, actually, we're not going to do that. Then they're trying to do the buddy Sonic and Eggman thing, and again, no, we're not going to do that. Whereas, like, like most other Sonic games, even the ones that are a bit divisive, at least they've picked something they want to do and they do it.
Yeah.
Well, first things first, I'd love to point out the fact that one designer had to make creaminbush.jpg, which is
Yes.
pretty funny. Number two, another parallel is Sonic, when he, reaches the victory screen, does all kind of like spastic body breaks and whatnot, and Blaze is very graceful, almost ballerina-esque, so, another contrast. And thirdly, I feel like they were trying to make Marine in Rush Adventure parallel universe Cream. I don't know if anyone else got that.
Maybe. I kind of see this dynamic that's growing between Blaze and Cream as basically being the Sonic and Tails dynamic for Blaze's story. Marine, I'm not quite sure where she falls. She kind of, to me, she's a bit one note, and I don't really remember any of her actual plot, so that kind of sums up Marine's placement.
Well, I mean, Styx kind of... Okay, Blaze just kind of took off to the sky back there. Yeah... What the fuck is her name? Styx took all of Marine's thunder, essentially.
Well, I mean, she's basically the same character design again, just without the fake Aussie accent.
Yep, that's true. Struth, mate. Tiredvanilla.jpg. Oh god, she's brought home another friend.
I know, it's just... I mean, at least on the plus side, it's not another bloody Chow this time.
At least it's not another bloody robot that's gonna try and massacre us all.
This would have been when they had Jamal living with them, wouldn't it? Although he's not here for some reason.
I don't even want to look up a Sonic timeline. In fact, you know what? I'm going to look up the Sonic timeline.
When is that fucking like annual thing coming out that they're doing an official one for?
Oh, I'm looking forward to that, actually.
Well, Flame, it'll probably come out... it'll probably come out when they announce a new Sonic game, which, I mean, yeah, basically at this point.
No, it'll end up coming out like a month or so before the new Sonic game that will contradict everything in the timeline.
Oh, Jesus.
Remember, when you find the timeline, you've got to make sure it's the multiverse one.
Well, I mean, it has to be a multiverse one because Sonic 06 and obviously Sonic Rush exist, and also Generations, and therefore Mania, and therefore Forces, all spread out into all sorts of chaos.
My brain!
Yeah, but then again, I know Azuka has said otherwise, but Azuka says a lot of things, so you can kind of disregard any word of God in this case, which makes it even more of a clusterfuck.
I see. Okay, the encyclopedia is actually called the Encyclospedia, which I fucking adore.
Beautiful.
Well, I am lost, exactly, Blaze, like, that. I mean, I think that's us in both whatever the hell's happening with Sonic, but just the rest of the world as well.
It's interesting that Blaze correctly identifies Cream as a bunny when, as far as I can recall, there's no bunnies in her dimension. There's a lot of koalas.
Yeah, that is true, though, like, we did only see a small portion of her, like, dimensions demographic in Rush Adventure. So maybe there's, like, maybe she lives in, like, alternate universe Australia, and, like, maybe there's a bunny territory somewhere else.
Maybe. Also, Jesus Christ, I forgot Cream's old voice.
Oh yes, like, Cream's voice, I've never liked Cream's voice in any of the iterations, but god, this sort of era, Cream's voice is something special.
I guess we can move on to gameplay now that we've discussed, like, characterization, story usage, etc. Flame, how would you say Blaze handles compared to Sonic. I know, like, obviously there's a Sonic base, and then you put like the tomato sauce on, and bada bing, bada boom, you got Blaze. But are there any noticeable differences game feel-wise to you?
Well, the main difference from what I can tell is, whereas Sonic's purely a speed character, she seems a bit more lighter on her feet, like she's more of a jumping kind of character. You see that like in terms of the tricks that she does, and also she's got a slight hover, which it can save you in some situations. Not a lot, like a lot of the time, particularly in the later levels, if you're condemned to a pit, you're condemned to a pit, but it can give you like that little bit of leeway. If you control Sonic okay, you'll be fine with Blaze. It's not like one of the situations where she'd play completely different. It is pretty much just a slightly different flavour of Sonic, like we said.
Fair dues. She also has like a super huge up boost, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's part of what I was getting at with like the tricks, because you can do some really long-winded tricks with Blaze, which makes her feel that bit more satisfying to do mid-air shit with.
Huh. You're getting a lot of high ranks with Blaze.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of that is just because this was my second time around these levels after recording Sonic's Run just moments beforehand, but you know. There's also the fact that Blaze doesn't have special stages like Sonic does, so I'm also just going the most direct route rather than slowing down and stopping for the little spinny wing things.
Yeah, that is true.
I was scanning through the footage earlier, trying to like find one, just to discuss how she gets her set of emeralds, and you're right, she doesn't have a special stage. I wonder why that was exactly.
I don't know, like, she picks up the Soul Emeralds throughout the story, similar to like how Sonic gets the Chaos Emeralds in the like, adventure games and whatnot, so there's no real need for special stages. And you can take this as a little jab at another game if you like, but I think having 14 special stages is a bit overkill.
Again, just freeing K propaganda on the channel. It's not on, mate, it's not on.
Like, I don't even dislike 3K, I just think it's the least interesting classic Sonic.
That is objectively not true.
How is that objective?
Because I fucking said it, that's why.
But you're the one with the objectively wrong opinions though, so that means it's objectively the least interesting.
Oh, fired again!
I mean, so from the perspective of someone who has not played any of the games, in terms of, it depends what you define as interesting, because technically 3 and K would classify as being more interesting than the original Sonic, because it's going to have a lot more going on in it. But then you've got the whole argument of, is interesting relating to originating ideas, and to be honest, I don't think you can really... They've all got their own things that make them interesting, therefore I wouldn't say that you can necessarily say that any of them are objectively the least interesting of the three, because they've all got their own thing going on that you can't really do much about. What it'd probably be least interesting would be Sonic Boom, because that just looks like an absolute dumpster fire of boringness. Although, that said, that also has its own interesting thing going on, purely because of its very existence.
Yeah, the development background and so on and so forth.
Well, like, from replaying Wise Lyric earlier this year, I don't dislike it as much as I did the first time around, so I can at least give it that. But that might be now that it's more of a I know what I'm in for rather than I'm just disappointed because I just spent money on this game sort of thing. Which is why going back to bad games is usually a better time than playing a bad game you just got.
This is true.
And I remember getting Rise of the Lyric for my birthday, and THD and I streamed it. Or did we stream it for his birthday? It's been a long time since that stream, honestly.
I'm pretty sure that was yours, but yeah. Like, I still think one of the funniest things about Rise of the Lyric is the fact that there was a patch that was like about a gig in size, and all it did was bugger up the lighting a bit and fix the Knuckles jump.
Oh my god, jeez.
This is the downside of having a Sonic-like experience with Blaze, in that she gets the same boring boss fights. I think some of them are recoloured a bit, but that's about it.
Yes, they are.
Well, I suppose it's because it's the other Eggman fighting her. It makes sense that he would have his own design philosophy, or at least in terms of the colours he's using.
Yeah, that's true. You know, Cream, this fight would have been over like a minute ago if he just sent out cheese to do damage.
It's very true.
Although, she was broken as fucking advanced too, so maybe she'd just give an Eggman a chance this time.
Oh god, Cream the Destroyer!
Come on, Eggman, in your own time. There we go.
Really, after like the 4th time, you brought this on yourself.
Again, I know I bitched about it in Sonic's run, but this is the problem with these bosses, in that it is very much a just wait for the opening kind of situation.
I feel like they fixed that up a little bit in Rush Adventure, but I don't want to use up all my commentary for that game before we ever get to it, so I'll stick a pin in that for now.
Yeah, well, honestly, I can't remember any of the bosses from Rush Adventure, so, you know.
I remember the super final one, but that's about it, really.
Well, I've never played it, so I have no idea, so...
We've got an actual bit of cutscene. Shame it's only for a few seconds before more text boxes pop up.
Running Jeff, and I guess this part's over, so we'll start running as well, and we'll see you guys next time, where Blaze's story in Sonic Rush continues. Bye for now.
Never get on my bad side.